Dr. Blue stood frozen in front of his monitoring screen at the Galactic Science Academy. His four eyes blinked rapidly as he checked and rechecked the readings. Something was wrong, very wrong. The energy patterns he was seeing from the primitive sector of space simply couldn't exist. The Academy's observation center was usually quiet at this time of the night cycle. Most other scientists had gone home, leaving the massive room filled with softly humming machines and gently blinking lights. But tonight, the peace was broken by Dr. Blue's increasingly rapid breathing. "This must be a malfunction," he muttered, his blue-tinted fingers dancing across the control panel. He had been watching this particular sector for years, a relatively young civilization on a small blue planet called Earth. The humans there had only recently achieved basic spaceflight, nothing special about them at all. Until now. The readings showed energy signatures that seemed to bend the very fabric of spacetime. According to every physics textbook in the Academy's vast library, such readings should be impossible, especially from a species that had barely left their own atmosphere. Dr. Blue reached for his communication device. "Gray, I need you here. Now." His voice trembled slightly as he spoke. 10 minutes later, Dr. Gray hurried into the observation center. Unlike Blue's tall, slender form, Gray was shorter and rounder, his silver skin reflecting the soft light of the monitors. "This better be important, Blue. I was in the middle of dinner with my family," Gray grumbled, but his irritation vanished as soon as he saw the readings on the screen. "What in the name of the Ancient Ones am I looking at?" "That's what I've been asking myself for the past hour," Blue replied, pulling up more data streams. "Look at these energy patterns. They match nothing in our database. And the source." He zoomed in on a small spacecraft, barely visible among the stars. Gray leaned closer, his professional frustration now replaced with scientific curiosity. "A human vessel? That's impossible. Their technology is primitive. They're still using chemical rockets for most of their space travel." "Exactly," Blue said, highlighting several data points. "But look at this. They're manipulating space-time in ways that shouldn't be possible with their level of technology. Actually, it shouldn't be possible with any level of technology we know of." The two scientists spent the next few hours analyzing the data. They ran diagnostic after diagnostic on their equipment, checked for interference patterns, and even calibrated the entire sensor array twice. But the impossible readings remained. "We need to report this," Gray finally said, his voice serious. "The Council needs to know." Blue nodded slowly, still staring at the screen. "Do you realize what this means, Gray? Everything we think we know about physics. These humans are doing something that breaks all our rules. They're achieving what our best scientists declared impossible centuries ago." Gray started preparing the report, his fingers shaking slightly as he typed. "The question is, how? How are they doing this? And more importantly, do they even realize what they've accomplished?" As the first light of morning began to creep into the observation center, both scientists knew that the galaxy was about to change. Somewhere on that small blue planet, humans had casually violated the laws of physics, and they probably didn't even realize the magnitude of what they'd done. Blue saved all the data and began composing a message to the Galactic Science Council. He paused for a moment, looking at the small spacecraft that had caused all this chaos. These humans, these primitives who had barely mastered space travel, had just turned the scientific community upside down. And somehow, he had a feeling this was just the beginning. The morning staff would be arriving soon, and with them would come questions, theories, and inevitably, panic. But for now, in the quiet of the observation center, Blue and Gray sat in stunned silence, watching as humanity unknowingly rewrote the laws of physics. The morning brought chaos to the Galactic Science Academy. News of the strange readings had spread quickly, and now the observation center was packed with curious scientists from every department. Dr. Blue and Dr. Gray hadn't left their stations, their eyes fixed on the screens as they collected more data. "Everyone, please." Blue raised his voice above the excited chatter. "We need space to work. This is a serious scientific matter, not a public show. The crowd backed away slightly, but nobody left. They all wanted to see the impossible with their own eyes. Gray adjusted the main display screen, showing a clearer image of the human spacecraft. "Look at this," Gray pointed to a particular energy reading. "They're using some kind of bubble around their ship. It's like they're bending space itself." Blue nodded, his face serious. "It's an HFY drive, or at least something very similar, but their version is different from anything in our theoretical models." A younger scientist pushed forward through the crowd. "But that's impossible. The energy requirements alone would." "Impossible." Blue turned to face the crowd. "And yet here it is, happening right in front of us. These humans have built it using technology that's centuries behind ours." The room fell silent as Gray pulled up more detailed scans. The human spacecraft wasn't very large, maybe big enough for a crew of 5 or 6. Its design was simple, almost crude by galactic standards. But around it, space itself twisted and bent in ways that defied explanation. "They're not even trying to hide it," Gray muttered, checking another reading. "They're broadcasting their test results on open channels. Listen to this." He activated the audio feed, and a calm human voice filled the room. "Test Flight 47 proceeding as planned. Drive stability at 94%. All systems nominal." The casual tone of the human pilot made several scientists shake their heads in disbelief. These creatures were breaking fundamental laws of physics and treating it like a routine flight test. "We need to understand how they're powering this," Blue said, making notes on his tablet. "According to everything we know, the energy needed for an HFY drive would be more than they could possibly generate with their technology." Gray zoomed in on the engine section of the ship. "That's the strangest part. Look at their power readings. They're using less energy than we thought would be theoretically possible." More scientists crowded around the screens, pointing and arguing about the readings. Some insisted it had to be a mistake. Others demanded to check the equipment again. But the evidence was clear. Humanity had found a way to do the impossible. "Blue," Gray's voice suddenly got very quiet. "Have you noticed something else? These humans, they're not just testing this drive. They're improving it. Look at these progress reports from their earlier tests." Blue quickly scanned through the data. Each test flight showed better efficiency, greater stability, and improved control. The humans weren't just breaking the laws of physics. They were getting better at it. "We need to contact the Council immediately," Blue decided. "This goes beyond a simple anomaly. These humans have discovered something fundamental that we've all missed." As if to emphasize his point, the human spacecraft suddenly accelerated, its drive field bending space in a way that made several of the watching scientists gasp. The ship moved with impossible grace, breaking yet another law of physics that the galactic community had thought unbreakable. Gray started preparing the report for the Council, his hands shaking slightly. How do you explain something like this? How do you tell the greatest scientific minds in the galaxy that everything they know might be wrong? Blue watched the human ship continue its test flight, a strange mix of fear and excitement in his 4 eyes. We tell them the truth. We tell them that somewhere out there, on a small blue planet, a species of beings called humans just changed everything we thought we knew about the universe. The observation center remained crowded throughout the day, as more and more scientists came to witness the impossible. And on their screens, that small human ship continued its dance through space, casually rewriting the laws of physics with each passing moment. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Science Council had never been so full. Scientists from every corner of the galaxy had rushed to attend the emergency meeting. The usual calm and order of the council chamber had been replaced by nervous whispers and worried faces. At the center of the room, Dr. Blue and Dr. Gray stood before the High Council, their evidence displayed on massive screens behind them. The 7 members of the High Council sat in their elevated seats, their expressions growing more concerned with each passing moment. "This is unprecedented," said First Speaker White, his aged face showing deep worry lines. "You're absolutely certain about these readings?" "We've checked everything dozens of times," Blue replied, his voice steady despite his nervousness. "The humans have created a working Alcubierre drive using methods that should be impossible." "Impossible is a strong word," interrupted Council Member Red, leaning forward in her seat. "Perhaps we simply missed something in our own research." Gray stepped forward, bringing up new data on the screens. "With respect, Council Member, we've been studying space-time manipulation for over 10,000 years. These humans achieved this breakthrough in less than 3 centuries of basic space exploration." The chamber erupted in worried murmurs. A respected physicist from the outer systems stood up. "But their power source? How are they managing the energy requirements? Even our most advanced reactors couldn't power a drive like that." "That's just it," Blue said, highlighting several graphs. "They're using some kind of new principle we don't understand. Their energy consumption is a fraction of what our theories say should be necessary." The room descended into chaos. Scientists argued with each other, some insisting it had to be a mistake, others demanding immediate action. The council members watched with growing concern as the galaxy's greatest minds began to panic. "Silence!" First Speaker White's voice boomed through the chamber. The room fell quiet instantly. "We must approach this rationally. Dr. Blue, what do you recommend?" Blue took a deep breath. "The humans don't seem to realize what they've done. They're treating this breakthrough like it's just another step in their space program. But they're advancing quickly. Each test flight shows improvements we didn't think were possible." "They're like children playing with fire," someone shouted from the crowd. "They could tear a hole in space-time. Or they could revolutionize our understanding of physics," Gray countered. "Think about it. What else might they discover if they keep approaching problems this way?" First Speaker White raised his hand for silence again. "The question before us is clear. What do we do about these humans?" An older council member named Green spoke up for the first time. "We've always kept watch over developing civilizations from a distance. Perhaps it's time to break that protocol. These humans need to be contacted before they accidentally destroy themselves, or worse, destroy us all." The chamber grew quiet as the weight of that suggestion sank in. Making contact with a pre-galactic civilization was almost unheard of. But these weren't normal circumstances. "Look at their test flight data," Blue said, pointing to the latest readings. "They're already planning to extend the range of their drive. Soon they'll be capable of reaching other star systems. Do we want to wait until they show up at our doorstep, breaking physics in ways we don't understand?" The council members huddled together, speaking in hushed tones. The fate of human scientific development hung in the balance as the galaxy's greatest minds tried to decide what to do about this unexpected situation. Finally, First Speaker White stood. "We have reached a decision. A delegation will be sent to Earth, led by Dr. Blue and Dr. Gray. Your mission will be to make contact and assess the situation." As the chamber erupted in excited discussion, Blue and Gray looked at each other nervously. Making first contact with a species that had just rewritten the laws of physics wasn't exactly what they had expected when they started their day. The diplomatic vessel Starseeker hung in high orbit above Earth, its advanced cloaking systems keeping it hidden from human detection systems. Inside, Dr. Blue paced nervously, while the contact team made their final preparations. "Remember," Dr. Gray said, checking their translation devices one last time, "we're dealing with a species that accidentally broke the laws of physics. We need to be careful about how we approach them." The contact team consisted of 5 members: Blue and Gray, Professor Purple, a theoretical physicist, Dr. Orange, a cultural specialist, and Council Observer Black. They had spent the last 3 weeks studying Earth's broadcasts, trying to understand human culture and behavior. Their entertainment broadcasts show them as both primitive and surprisingly advanced, Orange reported, displaying images on the ship's main screen. They dream of space travel in their stories, but their actual technology is, well, it was basic until this drive of theirs. Professor Purple snorted. Basic is an understatement. They're still burning fossil fuels on their planet, and yet somehow they created something our best scientists couldn't achieve in thousands of years. Black, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. The Council wants to know if they understand the danger. A single miscalculation with their drive could tear apart the fabric of space-time. Blue watched the Earth spinning below them, its blue oceans and white clouds peaceful from this distance. That's why we need to make contact now, before they push their experiments too far. The team gathered in the ship's conference room for their final briefing. The wall screens showed their chosen landing site, a secure facility in a remote area where the humans conducted their spacecraft tests. We've identified their project leaders, Gray explained, bringing up 2 human images, Project Director Thomas and Chief Engineer Maria. They're the ones responsible for the drive development. Orange raised a concerned tentacle. Are we sure about appearing in our natural forms? Many human stories show them reacting with fear to alien life. We need to establish trust, Blue replied. Appearing in disguise would only damage that trust when they eventually discovered the truth. Besides, their recent entertainment shows them becoming more accepting of different life forms. The ship's AI announced that they had reached their optimal landing window. The team did one final check of their equipment: translation devices, data tablets, and emergency beacons. None of them said it out loud, but they all knew this mission could change the course of galactic history. Remember, Black said as they headed for the landing shuttle, our primary goal is to assess their understanding of the technology they've created. We need to know if they're ready for the responsibility that comes with it. The shuttle departed the Star Seeker, its own cloaking system active as it descended through Earth's atmosphere. Through the viewport, they could see the testing facility growing larger, a complex of buildings and launch pads in the middle of a desert. I'm picking up their test ship's energy signature, Purple reported, checking his instruments. They're preparing for another test flight. We should land now before they activate the drive. Blue felt his heart racing as the shuttle touched down. After thousands of years of watching from a distance, they were about to meet humans face to face. And not just any humans, but ones who had casually achieved what the galaxy's best minds had failed to do. Everyone ready? Gray asked, his hand hovering over the shuttle's door control. The team nodded, each lost in their own thoughts about what they might discover. As the door began to open, letting in Earth's air and sunlight, Blue couldn't help but wonder. Were they about to meet humanity's brightest minds, or simply lucky inventors who had stumbled upon something they couldn't possibly understand? The answer, as they would soon discover, was neither. It was something far more interesting. The alien delegation had expected many possible reactions to their arrival: panic, fear, aggression, or maybe even religious awe. What they hadn't expected was mild curiosity and offers of coffee. Would any of you like some coffee? Project Director Thomas asked, looking completely unfazed by the presence of 5 alien beings in his office. Or we have tea if you prefer. Maria, could you grab the good cups from the break room? Chief Engineer Maria nodded and left, seemingly more interested in being a good host than questioning why aliens had suddenly appeared at their facility. Dr. Blue and his team exchanged confused looks. Aren't you surprised to see us? Dr. Gray finally asked, his translator working perfectly to convert his words to English. Thomas shrugged. Well, we figured someone would show up eventually. You can't start bending space-time without attracting attention. Though I'll admit, we thought it might take longer. Maria returned with a tray of cups and a fresh pot of coffee. We've got creamer and sugar if anyone needs it. I'm not sure what aliens usually take in their coffee. But you're breaking fundamental laws of physics. Professor Purple burst out, unable to contain himself any longer. Your drive system shouldn't be possible. Maria set down her coffee cup and pulled up some technical diagrams on a nearby screen. Oh, you mean the space folding drive? Yeah, we had to try a few different approaches before we got it working. The math said it should work, so we just kept at it until it did. The aliens stared at the diagrams in shock. The humans had drawn smiling faces next to some of the more complex equations, and someone had doodled little rockets in the margins. The math said it should work, Dr. Orange repeated weakly. But every calculation we've done over thousands of years showed it was impossible. Well, there's your problem, Thomas said, taking the sip of his coffee. You probably overthought it. We just looked at it from a different angle. Maria, show them the napkin where you first worked it out. Maria pulled a crumpled napkin from her desk drawer. On it were some rough calculations and a sketch that looked like it had been done during lunch break. Council Observer Black nearly fainted at the sight. This is how you developed a technology that revolutionizes space travel? Blue asked, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in disbelief. Part of it, Maria answered cheerfully. The rest is on some sticky notes and whiteboards around the lab. We really should organize it better, but we've been busy with the test flights. Thomas noticed the aliens' shocked expressions. Is everything okay? You all look a bit pale. Well, paler than when you arrived, I mean. We came here expecting to warn you about the dangers of your experiments, Gray explained. We thought you might accidentally tear apart the fabric of space-time. Maria laughed. Oh, we solved that problem last week. Turns out if you adjust the field harmonics just right, it actually strengthens local space-time stability. Here, I'll show you. She pulled up more diagrams, these ones covered with more doodles and helpful notes like, try this, and worked better than expected. The alien scientists crowded around, their shock turning to fascination as they realized these humans had not only solved problems that had puzzled the galaxy for millennia, but had done so with a casual efficiency that defied belief. I don't understand, Blue said finally. How did you accomplish all this without centuries of theoretical framework? Thomas and Maria exchanged amused glances. Simple, Thomas replied, refilling everyone's coffee cups. Nobody told us it was impossible, so we just tried it anyway. The testing facility's main laboratory was a strange mix of cutting-edge technology and surprisingly basic equipment. Alien scientists and human engineers crowded around workstations, sharing data and ideas with growing excitement. So you're telling me, Maria said, pointing at a holographic display, that you've been trying to contain the space-time bubble with pure energy fields. Dr. Blue nodded. Of course, our calculations showed it was the only way to maintain stability. Well, there's your problem. Maria grabbed a marker and walked to a whiteboard covered in equations. We found it works much better if you let the field form naturally and just guide it a bit. Like this. She drew a quick diagram, complete with another smiling face in the corner. Professor Purple watched in amazement as she explained their approach using simple drawings and basic math. But that's not how it's supposed to work, he muttered, his tentacles twitching nervously. Thomas laughed from his spot by the coffee machine. That's probably why it does work. We didn't know how it was supposed to be done, so we just did what made sense to us. Dr. Gray was examining the drive prototype in the corner of the lab. Your power source is remarkably simple. How did you solve the energy requirement problem? Oh, that, Maria said, walking over. We actually found out we didn't need nearly as much power as the theoretical model suggested. Turns out space-time is pretty flexible, if you ask it nicely. Ask it nicely, Council Observer Black repeated, looking confused. It's a joke, Thomas explained, but also kind of true. We discovered that gentle manipulation works better than trying to force it. The original theories assumed you needed massive energy to bend space, but we found a way to sort of fold it instead. The aliens watched as Maria pulled up the test flight data. Each flight showed improvements in efficiency, stability, and control. But what really shocked them was the casual way the humans had documented their world-changing discoveries. One note in the test log simply read, "Tried reversing the field polarity. Works way better this way. Note, remember to bring more snacks for next test flight." This is revolutionary, Dr. Blue said, scanning through the data. You've accomplished in months what our scientists couldn't do in thousands of years." "Well," Maria replied, drawing another diagram, "maybe that was the advantage. We didn't have thousands of years of theory telling us what wouldn't work. We just kept trying different things until something did." Thomas nodded, passing out fresh coffee to everyone. "That's how humans usually solve problems. We try things. Sometimes they explode, but usually we learn something useful from the explosion." The alien scientists exchanged worried looks at the mention of explosions, but continued studying the human data. Every answer seemed to lead to 10 new questions, and the humans were happy to explain their methods, even if those methods sometimes seemed to defy logic. "Look at this," Dr. Orange said, pointing to another test log. "They solved the phase variance problem by playing with it." "Yeah," Maria grinned. "We noticed the field responded to different frequencies, so we basically tuned it like a radio until we found the sweet spot. The math came after we knew it worked." As the day went on, both groups learned from each other. The aliens shared their advanced theoretical frameworks, while the humans showed them how to think outside those same frameworks. It was a perfect blend of alien precision and human creativity. "You know what's funny?" Thomas said as they reviewed another successful test flight. "We thought we were just building a better way to explore space. We didn't realize we were breaking any universal laws." Blue looked at the human engineer with new respect. "Perhaps that's exactly why you succeeded. You saw possibilities where we only saw limitations." 3 months after first contact, the Galactic Science Academy looked very different. Humans walked its ancient halls alongside alien scientists, bringing their unique perspective to problems that had stumped the galaxy's greatest minds for centuries. Dr. Blue stood at his favorite observation window, watching Earth's first official diplomatic ship arrive using its new space-folding drive. The ship's design was a perfect blend of human creativity and alien technology, sleek and advanced, but with a certain artistic flair that could only come from Earth. "Still trying to process it all?" Dr. Gray asked, joining him at the window. "Look at them." Blue gestured to a group of human and alien scientists hurrying past, deep in discussion. 6 months ago, we thought humans were barely capable of basic spaceflight. Now they're helping us rewrite our physics textbooks. In the main laboratory, Maria was teaching a class of alien students. Her whiteboard was covered in equations, but also her trademark doodles and simple explanations. The aliens had learned that sometimes a rough sketch explained more than pages of complex calculations. "And if you think about space like a piece of paper," she was saying, folding the sheet to demonstrate, "you can see why forcing it doesn't work, as well as gentle manipulation." "Yes," the student in the back. A young alien raised all 4 tentacles. "But what if the spatial coordinates don't align with the quantum field?" Maria smiled. "Then we try something else until it works. That's the human way. Keep trying new things until you find what works, then figure out why it works later." Meanwhile, in the Academy's Grand Library, Thomas was meeting with the High Council. The massive room's ancient screens now display both traditional alien text and human-style diagrams with helpful notes and the occasional smiley face. "The combined research program is exceeding all expectations," Thomas reported. "It turns out our different approaches to science work really well together. Your precise calculations help us understand why our ideas work, and our willingness to experiment helps you discover new possibilities." First Speaker White nodded approvingly. "Indeed, the galaxy is changing faster than ever before. Thanks to human influence, we've made more progress in 3 months than in the previous century." Back at the observation window, Blue and Gray watched as more ships arrived from Earth, each one slightly different as humans continued to experiment and improve their designs. "The funny thing is," Gray said, checking some data on his tablet, "they're still breaking physics. They just do it more efficiently now." Blue laughed. "And we're learning to be more like them. Did you see the young scientists in Lab 4? They've started drawing faces on their equations too." An excited shout from a nearby laboratory caught their attention. They hurried over to find a mixed team of human and alien scientists celebrating around a strange device. "What happened?" Blue asked. A human scientist named Jack grinned. "We were trying to fix the quantum stabilizer, but we accidentally invented a new form of matter instead. Pretty cool, right?" The aliens in the room looked both horrified and impressed, an expression that was becoming increasingly common around humans. As Blue wrote in his personal log that evening, "The humans have changed everything, not just our understanding of physics. They've taught us that sometimes the best discoveries come from not knowing something is impossible. Their greatest strength isn't their technology or their creativity. It's their willingness to try, to fail, and to keep trying anyway." He looked out at the busy academy halls, where humans and aliens worked together, sharing ideas, coffee, and the occasional explosion. "We thought we were making contact to teach them about the dangers of their experiments. Instead, they taught us that the only real limitation is believing something can't be done." Above the academy, Earth's ships continued to arrive, each one carrying more humans eager to explore, experiment, and casually break whatever laws of physics got in their way. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was probably a good thing.